Good evening, dear travellers. Tonight, we're gathering at the fabled Moonlit Mug Tavern, where legends and whispers of the past come alive in the warm glow of the firelight. Tonight's collection begins with the wandering minstrel's melody, a tale of a bard whose haunting song holds the power to heal a broken kingdom and stir the hearts of even the most lost souls. Our second story, The Night and the Autumn Queen, takes you deep into the enchanted Crimson Wood, where a brave knight seeks the wisdom and power of a mystical queen to save his beloved sister, all while facing trials that test the very core of his heart. Finally, we conclude with The Rogue's Dagger, the thrilling adventure of a cunning thief and his fabled blade as he confronts greed, danger, and the fine line between justice and vengeance. Each tale is woven with rich imagery and soothing words to guide you into stillness, while the gentle ambiance of the Moonlit Mug Tavern cradles you in its warmth. Before we step into these enchanting stories, take a moment to settle in. Gently close your eyes, feel your body sink deeper into your bed, and allow the soft hum of the tavern and the crackling of the fire to wrap around you like a comforting embrace. Take a deep inhale and exhale, releasing any tension you may still be holding on to. Let your breath flow naturally now, soft and easy. With every breath, feel yourself becoming lighter, your mind quieter, and your heart calmer. Picture yourself stepping into the Moonlit Mug Tavern. The warm glow of lanterns welcomes you, and the scent of spiced cider and pine fills the air. A lively hum of stories and laughter surrounds you, and in the corner, a seat by the hearth awaits. Here, you are safe, at ease, and ready to be transported. The Wandering Minstrel's Melody. Chapter 1. The Arrival at the Moonlit Mug. The Moonlit Mug Tavern stood like a beacon on the edge of the darkened woods, its warm glows spilling out into the cool night air. The scent of roasted meats and freshly baked bread wafted through the breeze, mingling with the earthy aroma of moss and pine. The tavern was a refuge for all, weary travelers seeking shelter, villagers escaping their day's toil, and adventurers brimming with tales of danger and glory. It was a place where reality and fantasy blurred, and the lines between past and present seemed to dissolve in the golden light of its lanterns. The wooden sign creaked faintly in the evening wind, swaying on iron chains. It bore the image of a crescent moon cradling a steaming mug, a whimsical nod to the enchantment found within its walls. Inside, the tavern was alive with energy. The clinking of tankards, bursts of hearty laughter, and the occasional shout from a spirited dice game created a symphony of camaraderie. Flames crackled in the massive stone hearth, their glow illuminating the faces of patrons seated on sturdy oak benches. At one table, a group of traders haggled over the price of silk and spices, their voices rising and falling like waves on the sea. Nearby, a lone knight sat polishing his blade, his armor catching the firelight in glints of gold and silver. In the corner, a pair of elves whispered in hushed tones, their delicate features shadowed by the hoods of their cloaks. Each person seemed to carry a story, and within the walls of the Moonlit Mug, those stories intertwined like threads in a tapestry. As the tavern's oak door creaked open, a hush fell over the room. The sudden quiet was not due to fear or suspicion, but rather an instinctive recognition that something, or someone, remarkable had entered. A slender figure cloaked in deep blue stepped across the threshold, carrying a lute slung over his back. The polished wood of the instrument caught the firelight, gleaming like a jewel amid the shadows. The stranger's movements were fluid, almost otherworldly, and his eyes, dark as the midnight sky, seemed to hold 1,000 untold stories. Conversations resumed in hushed tones as the figure approached the bar. The innkeeper, a burly man with a ruddy face and a voice as deep as a drum beat, leaned forward. "What brings you here, traveller? And what name do you go by?" he asked, his tone a mixture of curiosity and guarded hospitality. The stranger inclined his head respectfully. "I am Alaric, a bard who wanders in search of tales to tell and ears willing to listen. I have walked far, through forests where the trees whisper secrets, and across mountains that echo with forgotten songs." His voice was smooth and melodic, each word carrying an undercurrent of enchantment. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Bards were rare visitors to the Moonlit Mug, and their arrival was always met with eager anticipation. Tales and songs were as valuable as gold in these parts, especially on nights when the wind howled outside and the firelight felt like the only barrier against the dark. The innkeeper gestured toward a seat near the hearth. "Let's see if your stories are worth the drink," he said gruffly, though a twinkle of curiosity softened his expression. Alaric settled into the chair, his lute resting across his lap. He plucked a few notes, the sound clear and resonant, silencing the room once more. Each note seemed to carry a promise, an unspoken invitation to journey beyond the mundane and into the extraordinary. "Tonight," he began, his voice low and compelling, "I shall tell you of a melody so powerful it once saved an entire kingdom from ruin." The room leaned closer, the crackling of the fire the only sound as he prepared to weave his tale. Chapter 2. The Kingdom of Lyricor. Long ago, nestled in a verdant valley surrounded by towering mountains, lay the Kingdom of Lyricor. It was a realm unlike any other, where music was not merely an art, but the lifeblood of the land. The air itself seemed to vibrate with harmony, and even the rivers hummed as they flowed over smooth stones. The people of Lyricor believed that music was a gift from the moon goddess, a divine force that connected all living things. In Lyricor, every village square boasted a stage, and every child was taught to sing before they could speak. Farmers sang to their crops to encourage growth, and shepherds played flutes to keep their flocks calm. The kingdom's most prized possession was a harp said to be gifted by the moon goddess herself. Its strings, made of silver and moonlight, produced melodies that could heal wounds, mend broken hearts, and even summon rain during droughts. The harp was kept in the royal palace, guarded zealously and played only during the most sacred ceremonies. But as centuries passed, the harp was lost, stolen, some said, or hidden away during a time of strife. Without its guiding melodies, the harmony of Lyricor began to fade. Crops withered, disputes flared into feuds, and the once clear rivers grew murky. The people's songs turned mournful, and their joy seemed to evaporate like morning dew. Whispers of a curse spread through the land, and hope became a rare and fragile thing. Chapter 3. Into the Forest of Echoes. The Forest of Echoes was a place of legend, its name whispered with equal parts wonder and fear. It was said that the forest's trees could remember every sound they had ever heard, their branches and leaves holding echoes of songs, voices, and even the cries of lost souls. Travelers who entered the forest spoke of hearing their own words repeated back to them, distorted and layered like a haunting refrain. To navigate the forest, Taris relied on his music. He played his lute as he walked, letting the notes guide him like a compass. Each melody he crafted was an offering to the forest, a plea for safe passage, and a gesture of respect to the ancient spirits rumored to dwell within. The forest seemed to respond, its shadows parting and its whispers growing softer, as if acknowledging his sincerity. But the forest was not without its dangers. Taris's journey was marked by eerie encounters, shadows that moved when no one was near, the distant sound of footsteps mirroring his own, and the ghostly laughter of unseen entities. At one point, he stumbled upon a clearing where the ground was littered with shattered instruments, their strings tangled like cobwebs. A warning, perhaps, of those who had come before him and failed. After what felt like days of wandering, Taris found himself drawn to a haunting melody that seemed to emanate from deep within the forest. The notes were faint but unrelenting, pulling him forward like a siren's call. His heart pounded as he followed the sound, each step bringing him closer to the source of the forest's enigmatic magic. Chapter 4. The Guardian of the Harp. The clearing was bathed in silvery light, the trees forming a natural cathedral around a shimmering pool at its center. Above the water, suspended as if by unseen hands, was the harp. Its strings seemed to hum with a faint glow, resonating with an otherworldly energy. Taris stepped closer, his breath catching in his throat as the harp's beauty overwhelmed him. A voice, clear and commanding, echoed through the clearing. "Who dares disturb the sacred harp of Lyricor?" The sound was neither harsh nor welcoming, but it carried an undeniable authority. Taris turned, his eyes widening as a figure emerged from the shadows. The Guardian was a vision of ethereal beauty, her form shimmering like moonlight on water. Her hair flowed like liquid silver, and her eyes glowed with an ancient wisdom that seemed to pierce straight through him. She carried an air of authority that demanded respect, her presence both awe-inspiring and intimidating. "I am Taris," he said, bowing low, "a minstrel seeking the harp to restore harmony to my homeland." His voice was steady, but his heart raced with a mixture of fear and determination. The Guardian studied him for a long moment before speaking. "Music is not merely sound. It is intention, emotion, and truth. To claim the harp, you must prove yourself worthy. Play for the waters and let them judge your heart." She gestured toward the pool, its surface as smooth as glass. Taris nodded, understanding the gravity of the task. He knelt by the pool and began to play. The melody he wove was one of sorrow and hope, a reflection of Lyricor's plight and his unwavering belief in redemption. As the notes filled the clearing, the pool began to ripple, its surface shimmering with light. The Guardian's stern expression softened, and she nodded. "You are worthy," she said. "The harp is yours, but wield its power with wisdom and compassion." Chapter 5. The Song of Renewal. With the harp in hand, Taris returned to Lyricor. His arrival was met with astonishment, the people's eyes wide with wonder as they saw the legendary instrument. In the town square, Taris climbed onto a platform and began to play. The harp's music was unlike anything they had ever heard, each note imbued with a magic that seemed to reach into their very souls. Fields that had been barren burst into bloom, their vibrant colors a testament to the harp's power. Rivers ran clear once more, and the air was filled with the joyous laughter of children. The people of Lyricor sang again, their voices blending with the harp's melody to create a symphony of renewal. Hope returned to the kingdom, and with it a renewed sense of unity and purpose. The changes were not merely physical but emotional as well. Families long estranged reconciled as the music reminded them of shared bonds and forgotten love. The melodies stirred memories of better days and instilled a newfound determination to rebuild what had been lost. Taris played until the stars filled the night sky, his music weaving a tapestry of hope that bound the people together once more. As dawn approached, the once barren land glowed with life, and the people of Lyricor stood side by side, their hearts full of gratitude and wonder. Taris, exhausted yet fulfilled, lowered the harp and gazed upon the transformed kingdom. "This is not the end," he said softly, his voice carrying a promise. "The music must continue, for harmony is a song that must never cease." Chapter 6. A New Melody. In the days that followed, Taris became a beloved figure in Lyricore. The harp was enshrined in the heart of the kingdom, its melodies becoming a cornerstone of their culture. Festivals were held in its honor, and people from far and wide traveled to Lyricore to hear the legendary instrument played. Taris continued to wander, his lute always by his side. He shared the story of the harp and its power, spreading its message to other lands. His songs carried the essence of Lyricore's renewal, inspiring hope in those who heard them. Everywhere he went, he reminded people that music had the power to heal, to unite, and to transform. Alaric's voice softened as he strummed the final chord of his tale. The tavern erupted in applause, the patrons moved by the story's magic. "And so, my friends," he said, his gaze sweeping the room, "remember this. Even in the darkest times, a single melody can light the way." The crowd lingered in thoughtful silence, their spirits lifted by the story's beauty. Alaric set his lute aside, a knowing smile on his lips. The air seemed to hum with anticipation, as if the next tale was already taking shape. The Night and the Autumn Queen. Chapter 1. A Fateful Quest. The town of Eldamere, nestled on the edge of the Crimson Wood, was known for its tales of beauty and mystery. In autumn, the forest transformed into a realm of fiery hues, with leaves of gold, amber, and crimson carpeting the ground like a celestial tapestry. It was said that deep within the woods lived a being of immense power and grace, the Autumn Queen, a spirit tied to the turning of seasons and the cycles of life. Many sought her out, but few returned, and those who did spoke in hushed whispers of her beauty and the tests she set for those who dared approach her. Among the residents of Eldamere was Sir Cedric, a knight renowned for his valor in battle and his unwavering dedication to justice. Yet, despite his many victories, Cedric carried a heavy burden. His sister, Lady Marin, had fallen ill with a mysterious malady that no healer could cure. Her once vibrant laughter had faded to a shadow, and Cedric's heart ached with helplessness. One evening, as he sat by her bedside, Marin grasped his hand weakly. "Brother," she whispered, her voice as fragile as the autumn breeze. "The villagers speak of the Autumn Queen. They say she has the power to heal any ailment. Will you seek her out for me?" Cedric's resolve hardened. He kissed his sister's forehead and vowed, "I will find the Autumn Queen and bring back the cure, no matter the cost." The next morning he donned his armor, took up his sword, and ventured into the Crimson Wood, his heart filled with determination and fear. The villagers gathered to watch him depart, their faces a mix of admiration and sorrow. None dared accompany him, for they knew the dangers that lay ahead. The Crimson Wood was not only the realm of the Autumn Queen, but also home to creatures born of shadow and mischief, drawn to the energy of the season's change. Cedric's journey would be fraught with peril, but his love for his sister outweighed his fear. As he entered the forest, the air grew cooler, and the canopy above glowed with an otherworldly light. The path before him was blanketed in leaves, and the rustling of the trees seemed to whisper secrets he could not understand. Cedric gripped the hilt of his sword tightly, his every sense alert. He knew he was stepping into a realm where the ordinary rules of the world no longer applied. Chapter 2. Trials of the Forest. The deeper Cedric ventured into the crimson wood, the more the forest seemed to come alive. The trees stretched their gnarled branches toward him as if reaching for his soul, and the air was thick with the scent of earth and decay. Shadows flitted at the edge of his vision, and strange calls echoed through the trees. Yet Cedric pressed on, his resolve unshaken. His first trial came as the path split into 3. Each route seemed identical, yet an unnatural silence hung over 2 of them. The third was filled with the sound of running water, soothing yet distant. A voice, soft and melodic, seemed to drift on the wind. Choose wisely, Knight of Eldamir, for one path leads to your goal, another to despair, and the last to your end. Cedric knelt and studied the ground. The leaves on the silent paths were undisturbed, while faint impressions marked the path of water. Trusting his instincts, he chose the third path. As he walked, the voice returned, this time clearer and tinged with approval. You have chosen well, but the forest's challenges are far from over. Further along, Cedric encountered a grove where the trees bore fruit of impossible colors, silver apples, golden pears, and sapphire plums. His hunger gnawed at him, but as he reached for a golden pear, a fox with eyes like embers darted into view. "Beware, noble knight," it said, its voice deep and rich. "The fruit of this grove is a gift and a curse. Eat, and you may gain strength or lose yourself to eternal sleep." Cedric withdrew his hand. "I cannot risk failure. My sister's life depends on me." The fox inclined its head, its fiery gaze full of respect. "Then continue, brave one, for the Autumn Queen awaits." Chapter 3. The Queen's Domain. After days of travel and countless trials, Cedric reached a clearing bathed in golden light. At its center stood a towering oak tree, its leaves shimmering like molten gold. Beneath the tree sat the Autumn Queen, her presence both regal and ethereal. Her gown was woven from autumn leaves, and her hair cascaded like a river of fire. Her eyes, deep and knowing, seemed to see into Cedric's very soul. "Welcome, Sir Knight," she said, her voice like the rustling of leaves. "You have faced the trials of the forest and proven your worth. Speak your purpose." Cedric knelt before her, his head bowed. "Great Queen, my sister lies gravely ill. No healer can cure her. I beg you to grant me the power to save her." The Queen studied him for a long moment. "Your love for your sister is pure, and your courage undeniable. But to grant your request, you must pass one final test." She extended her hand, and a golden leaf drifted down to land in Cedric's palm. "This leaf holds the power you seek, but its magic comes at a cost. Will you sacrifice a part of yourself to save another?" Without hesitation, Cedric replied, "I will. Whatever the cost, I will pay it." The Queen's eyes softened. "Then rise, Sir Cedric. Your heart is true, and your sacrifice will not be in vain." She placed her hand over his, and the leaf glowed with a brilliant light. Chapter 4. The Journey Home. With the Queen's blessing, Cedric began his journey back to Eldamir. The forest seemed less menacing now, its shadows retreating as if in deference to the magic he carried. Yet Cedric felt a heaviness in his chest, a sense of foreboding that the cost of his quest would soon reveal itself. As he neared the edge of the forest, the fox appeared once more. "You have done what few could," it said. "But remember, knight, all magic demands a price. Be prepared to pay it." Cedric nodded, his jaw set with determination. When he reached Eldamir, the villagers gathered in awe. Word of his return spread quickly, and soon Cedric was at his sister's bedside. Maren's eyes fluttered open as he placed the glowing leaf on her chest. The light enveloped her, and within moments, colour returned to her cheeks. Her breathing steadied, and she sat up, her eyes filled with wonder. "Brother," she whispered, tears streaming down her face, "you saved me." Cedric embraced her, his heart swelling with relief and joy. Yet as he held her, he felt a strange weakness creeping into his limbs. Chapter 5. The Cost of Sacrifice. Over the days that followed, Cedric's strength waned. The villagers noticed his pallor, and whispers of concern spread. Cedric, however, accepted his fate with quiet dignity. He had made his choice, and he did not regret it. One evening, as he sat beneath the stars, the Autumn Queen's voice echoed in his mind. "Your sacrifice will not go unnoticed, Sir Knight. Your story will inspire others, and your love will live on in the hearts of those you have touched." That night, Cedric dreamed of the Crimson Wood. He stood once again before the great oak tree, and the Autumn Queen appeared, her radiant form glowing softly in the moonlight. "You have given much, Cedric," she said, "but even in loss there is renewal. This is the way of the seasons." She touched his brow, and for a moment warmth spread through him, easing his weariness. "Your life has inspired change, and for that you are eternal." The next morning, Cedric woke with a bittersweet clarity. Though his body was frail, his spirit was resolute. He spent his days teaching the villagers the lessons he had learned during his journey: courage, sacrifice, and the importance of love. Maren, now fully healed, remained by his side, caring for him as he had once cared for her. Their bond grew even stronger, and she often reminded him that his sacrifice had saved not only her life, but also the spirit of the village. As the leaves began to fall and the chill of winter approached, Cedric knew his time was drawing near. One evening, he called the villagers together in the town square. Standing tall despite his frailty, he spoke with a voice that carried both strength and peace. "I leave this world with no regrets," he said, "for I have seen the power of love and the beauty of sacrifice. Remember always that the greatest strength lies in the heart." That night, Cedric passed peacefully in his sleep, the golden leaf he had carried glowing faintly in his hand. Chapter 6. Legacy of the Autumn Queen. In the days following Cedric's passing, the village of Eldamere seemed to hum with a quiet reverence. The tale of the knight who ventured into the Crimson Wood spread far and wide, becoming a story that inspired generations. Travelers came from distant lands to visit his grave, marked by the golden leaf that never withered, its light a beacon of hope and remembrance. Maren took up Cedric's mantle, not as a knight, but as a healer and guide. She dedicated her life to ensuring that no one in the village ever faced despair alone. With her brother's courage as her foundation, she fostered a community where love and compassion thrived. The villagers often spoke of how Maren's touch seemed to carry the same warmth and light as Cedric's final days, as though his spirit lived on through her. The Crimson Wood, once feared, became a place of pilgrimage. Those who entered found not the terror of shadows, but the whispers of lessons learned and strength gained. It was said that if one stood quietly beneath the great oak tree, they could hear the soft notes of Cedric's bravery in the rustling leaves and feel the Autumn Queen's watchful presence. As the seasons turned, the legend of Cedric and the Autumn Queen grew. Songs were written, plays performed, and paintings created in their honor. Eldamere flourished, becoming a symbol of hope and renewal. The villagers planted a grove of golden trees in Cedric's memory, their leaves shimmering like the Queen's gown, a constant reminder of the knight's unwavering heart. In time, the story became woven into the fabric of the land. Children grew up hearing of the knight who had ventured into the Crimson Wood, not for glory or riches, but for love. And so the legacy of Cedric and the Autumn Queen endured, carried in the hearts of all who heard it, a melody of courage and sacrifice that would never fade. The Rogue's Dagger. Chapter 1. Shadows in the Moonlight. The town of Blackwater was a place where secrets thrived in the shadows. By day it was a bustling port with merchants hawking exotic wares and fishermen hauling in their catches. But when the sun dipped below the horizon, Blackwater transformed into a labyrinth of narrow alleys, dim lanterns and whispered dealings. It was here, under the cloak of night, that a figure moved with purpose. A rogue, known only as Kale. Kyle was a man of contradictions, charming yet elusive, cunning yet principled in his own peculiar way. His reputation as a master thief was whispered in taverns and feared by those who valued their riches. Yet for all his notoriety, Kyle had a code. He never stole from those who could not afford to lose, and he never took a life. His skills with a dagger were unmatched, but the blade he carried was more than a tool, it was a legend. The dagger, known as the Shadow Fang, was said to have been forged in the heart of a dying star. Its black blade shimmered faintly with an otherworldly glow, and those who wielded it were said to walk unseen by mortal eyes. It had passed through countless hands over the centuries, each bearer leaving behind a tale of fortune or tragedy. Kyle had acquired it during a heist in the city of Draymore, where he had stumbled upon the blade hidden in a secret vault. From the moment he held it, Kyle knew his life would never be the same. On this particular night, Kyle had a mission that was unlike any other. A wealthy noble named Lord Taverick had commissioned a grand jewel, the Moonstone Crown, to be delivered to his estate. The artifact was said to hold magical properties, granting its wearer wisdom and influence. Taverick's greed was well known, and Kale had heard rumors that the crown's creation had left its craftsmen impoverished and desperate. To Kale, the theft of such an object was not merely a challenge, it was justice. As Kale scaled the high stone walls of Taverick's estate, the moonlight seemed to dim, as if veiled by unseen hands. The Shadow Fang pulsed faintly at his side, its energy resonating with the rogue's intent. He slipped past guards and through locked doors with practiced ease, his movements as silent as the night itself. Finally, he reached the vault where the crown was kept. The room was lavishly adorned, with gold and gemstones glinting from every surface. But Kyle's eyes were fixed on the centerpiece, a glass case containing the Moonstone Crown. Its pale blue gem seemed to radiate a soft glow, casting delicate patterns on the walls. Kyle approached cautiously, his every step calculated. He knew better than to trust appearances, for the wealthiest men often hid their treasures behind deadly traps. Chapter 2. The Heist. Kyle's sharp eyes scanned the glass case for any signs of magical wards or mechanical traps. A faint shimmer around the case confirmed his suspicion. A protective spell had been cast to deter intruders. Pulling a small vial from his pouch, Kyle carefully poured its contents over the glass. The liquid hissed and evaporated, neutralizing the enchantment with a faint spark. With the spell disabled, Kyle retrieved a set of tools from his belt. He worked quickly and silently, picking the intricate lock with the precision of an artist. Within moments, the case clicked open, and Kyle lifted the Moonstone Crown from its pedestal. The gem's glow intensified as he held it, casting an ethereal light that made the shadows dance. Just as Kale turned to leave, a voice shattered the silence. "You think you can steal from me and walk away unscathed?" The voice was deep and cold, sending a chill down Kale's spine. Spinning around, he found himself face to face with Lord Taverick. The nobleman stood in the doorway, flanked by two heavily armed guards. Kyle's mind raced. He had been careful, meticulous. How had Taverick known? The noble's eyes glinted with a cruel satisfaction as he raised a hand. In an instant, the room was filled with a blinding light, and Kyle felt an invisible force pin him to the ground. The crown slipped from his grasp and rolled across the floor. "The Shadow Fang!" Taverick sneered, his gaze falling to the dagger at Kale's side. "A blade of legend, wasted on a petty thief, but no longer." He gestured to his guards. "Take it." As the guards approached, Kyle's hand instinctively went to the Shadow Fang. The blade pulsed with a surge of energy, and the room seemed to ripple around him. Suddenly, the force holding him down dissipated, and Kyle sprang to his feet. In one fluid motion, he drew the dagger, its black blade cutting through the air like a whisper. The guards hesitated, their confidence faltering as the dagger's glow intensified. Kyle seized the moment, weaving through their defenses with agility and precision. The Shadow Fang's power seemed to guide his movements, allowing him to evade strikes and disarm his opponents with ease. Within moments, the guards lay unconscious, and Kyle turned his attention to Taverick. "You should have stayed in your gilded cage," Kyle said, his voice cold as steel. But before he could act, Taverick unleashed another burst of magical energy. This time, however, Kyle was ready. The Shadow Fang absorbed the magic, its blade glowing brighter with each pulse. Taverick's expression shifted from confidence to fear as he realized the dagger's true power. Chapter 3. A Rogue's Choice. Kyle advanced, the Shadow Fang humming in his hand. Taverick stumbled backward, his composure unraveling. "Wait!" the nobleman cried, his voice trembling. "We can make a deal. Wealth, power, anything you desire. Just spare me." For a moment, Kyle paused. The allure of wealth and power was tempting, but he had not come for riches. He had come to right a wrong, to take from a man whose greed had brought suffering to others. His grip on the dagger tightened. "Your time is over, Taverick. This crown belongs to those you exploited." Kyle sheathed the Shadow Fang and retrieved the moonstone crown. With one swift motion, he knocked Taverick unconscious, ensuring the noble would pose no further threat. As he slipped into the night, the weight of his actions settled over him. He had won, but the path he walked was fraught with moral ambiguity. The Shadow Fang's power was both a blessing and a curse, and Kale knew that his journey was far from over. As dawn broke over Blackwater, Kale delivered the moonstone crown to the craftsman who had forged it. Their gratitude was palpable, their tears of relief a testament to the impact of his actions. Yet as Kale disappeared into the shadows once more, he couldn't shake the feeling that the Shadow Fang's legend was just beginning.